Hi there, it's time for lesson 6.3, radicals and rational exponents. Maybe you're thinking, what is a rational exponent? Well, a rational number is a number that can be written as a fraction, right? So a rational exponent is an exponent that's written as a fraction. What I want you to be able to do today, because it's radicals and rational exponents, I want you to make a connection between the square root and the rational exponent, because they are very much related. And these examples here, I think, kind of show you. Let me zoom in because it's kind of tiny. All right, if I'm looking for the nth root of a, that's how you would say this, this is actually equal to a to the 1 over n power. And if you look at a really has a 1 by it, right? Isn't this really a to the first power? So all you have to do to write a radical as a rational exponent is bring over the base, and whatever exponent the base is being raised to, that's your numerator, and whatever the root you're looking for is, that's your denominator. So putting some numbers with that, if I asked you to find the fourth root of 81, that's the same as finding 81 to the 1/4 power. So whatever the root is, that's your denominator. Whatever exponent this is being raised to is your numerator. And I want you to be able to go back and forth writing them either way. So let's try a few of these. Let me get to the right ones, that would help. Okay, the directions ask you to write each expression in rational exponent form. So that means instead of being written as the cubed root of 216, I want you to write this as a base raised to a rational exponent. So again, the 216, the number underneath the radical sign, would be my base. And to get the exponent, I know there's not an exponent here, but there's really a 1. That's my numerator. And the root that you're taking is the third. So these two expressions are equal to one another. Now what I want you to do is evaluate. So the second part of this says evaluate. Tell me what this equals. It doesn't matter which one you do, and I'll show you both on your calculator. So if you have your calculator, get that out, and I'll kind of try to show you how to do this here. Zoom out a bit. All right, if I want to take the cubed root of 216, to get to anything other than the square root, because you know square root is second x squared, right? But to get to any other kind of root, you're going to press the math button that's right underneath the alpha. And when you press the math button, it brings up a menu here. Do you see how option number 4 shows you that 3 in front of the square root sign? That's going to give me the cubed root option. So if I want the cubed root of 16, I just type in 216, and I get 6. So I know that the cubed root of 216 is 6, because 6 times 6 times 6 is 216. Now you could also take 216 and raise it to the 1/3 power. You do that just like you do any other exponent. I take 216, use a little caret top. Yours might show up as a caret top. If it does and it doesn't put it up here, then I want you to use parentheses and type in 1 divided by 3. Otherwise, sometimes it might just take 216 to the first power and then divide that whole result by 3. That's not what you want to happen. So hit enter, and you see either one is 6. With this one, you don't have to go through the math menu, so that might be a little bit easier. So we answered both questions. We wrote it in rational form, then we evaluate it. Okay, let's do the same thing with the fifth root of 32. This means the same thing as, there's my base. This is really to the first power, so that's my numerator. The root that I want to take is the fifth root. I'm going to zoom in a little bit. So that's my denominator. So those expressions are equivalent. I can either now press the math 4 button to get the cubed root and type in 32. Oh, sorry, I meant to do fifth root. So math. Now I want the fifth root. How do you think I get there? I just press the math button. Yes, look at option number 5. You see how there's a little X there? That's going to allow me to type in whatever root I want. So hit enter, and then you just use your left arrow so that you're over top of that. And we want the fifth root, so I'm going to type in a 5, and then I'm going to use my arrow to get back inside and type in 32. And when you do that, you get 2. That's right. Now you could also, if you wanted, have just typed in 32 to the 1/5 power. So 32, caret top, 1 divided by 5, and lo and behold, it's 2. So either way, you get 2. All right, the next one, I want to first write this as a rational exponent. So this means it's 625 to the 1/4 power. To evaluate that, I can type in 625 to the 1 divided by 4 for the power, and we get 5. Or I can use that math menu again. I can type in math. Since it's not the cubed root, I need to go down to number 5 where that x is. Left arrow it, type in a 4. Right arrow it, type in my 625, and you still get 5. So however you want to enter it in, it's up to you. The last one, I want the 7th root of 32. To find the 7th root of 32, this means the same thing as 32 to the 1/7, so those are equivalent. And if you take 32 to the 1 divided by 7th power, you get a decimal. Dun dun dun. That's okay. Let's just round to the nearest hundredths place. So the 4 is in the hundredths place, the number next to it 0. So that is about 1.64 if I were to actually evaluate that. So I want you to be able to do both. I want you to be able to write it as a rational exponent and then tell me what it equals. All right, now we're going to do kind of the flip of that. I want you to write each expression in radical form and then evaluate it. So this time we're going to put the square root sign back. So I would start off by writing the square root sign. The base remains the same, right? So I'm going to put the 400 in there. Remember, the numerator tells me what power to raise this to, so I don't really have to write the 1 there. It's already implied. And the denominator tells me what root to take. And honestly, if this is a 2, I don't need to write a 2 there, because this is automatically implied that this means the square root of 400. So to find the square root of 400, you can just type in second x squared, because that's how you find the square root. Type in your 400, and you see that it's 20. Or maybe you already knew that because you memorized all of those roots from 1 to 20, I hope. Or maybe you did. We'll see. Okay, next, write the radical sign. I'm going to put 243 inside. This is a 1. I don't need to include the 1. The denominator is a 5. That tells me that I want the 5th root of 243. So if you want to take the 5th root of 243, go to Math, and then press 5. I want to replace that with a 5. And I'm looking for 243. Hit Enter, and we get 3. And again, if you would have just typed in 243 to the 1/5 power, you would have ended up getting the same exact thing. You'd get your 3. Hey kids, can you stop bouncing that ball over there? It's making it hard, I think, for my students to hear. Thank you. Sorry about that, guys. I am Mrs. Trombley and Mom at the same time. It's crazy. All right, here's 49 to the 1/2 power. I want to write it as a radical. So put the 49 inside. This 1 means the first power. This 2 means square root, so I don't need to put the 2. And this one you know, right? What number squared is 49? 7. So we're all set. Last one of this kind, I have 64 to the 1/6 power. So this means 64 goes inside. That 1 is the power it's raised to. That 6 is the root that I want. So I'm going to type in, you could type in 64 to the 1/6 this time. Why not? 64, let me see where you can see it. Still gone. There it is. To the 1 divided by 6 power. It's 2. Which are you thinking? Oh, yeah, that's right. 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 is 64. All right. I think this next part should be pretty simple for you. Honestly, I think it'll make a lot of sense. This time, instead of us having a 1 in that numerator spot for the rational exponents, we're going to have another number, but you know that that's just the number that you raise the base to. So it says a to the m over n is the same thing as saying a, the square root of, or whatever root, the nth root of a, and you raise that whole expression to that power. So over here, 16 to the 3/4. This means I want the 4th root of 16, so the denominator is still the root, and we're going to raise that to the 3rd power. All right, so let's try some. I have 27 to the 4/3 power. We have that base of 27 that's going to go inside. So our job again, I want to rewrite it in radical form and then evaluate it. Remember, the denominator is the root you want to take, and the exponent is the numerator. So this is what we're trying to find out here. I personally think it would be easier to type into my calculator as 27 to the 4/3 power. So that's what I'm going to do. 27 to the 4 divided by 3, close it, and we get 81. And that's how you evaluate it. All right, if you have 64 to the 2/3 power, 64 goes inside. The denominator tells me the root I want to take, and the numerator tells me the power I want to raise that to. So this is how you would write this in radical form. And I think it would be easier to do 64 to the 2/3, so I'm going to do 64 to the 2 divided by 3, and you should get 16. Voila. Right, almost there. I have 9 to the 5/2 power. So to rewrite this, 9 would go on the inside. 2 is the root that I want to take. So when it's squared, I don't have to write that. You can if you want to, so I'll write it because maybe you want to. But you don't have to. When you see that radical sign, it automatically means square root. And the 5 in the numerator spot means I'm raising it to the 5th power. All right, I'm going to, in my calculator, take 9 to the, and I'm going to type in 5 divided by 2, and we get 243, which that doesn't make any sense to me. Let me see here. Is that what I'm looking for? Yeah, that's right. Oh, I see what I did. Because this 9 is being taken to the 5th power. So the square root of 9 is 3, and 3 to the 5th power is 243. Now it is making sense. I'm sorry. My children are over there distracting me a little bit. We're in my basement, which is also a play area, not just a teaching area. Okay, here I have 256 to the 3/4 power. This one I'm going to write just a little bit different so you can see that it could also be written this way. I could also say 256 goes in here. The denominator tells me what root I want to take it to. And then this 3, when it was a 1, I said the same thing as this number raised to the 1. So I could actually put the 3 right inside with it. This is another way to write it. It's the same exact thing. It would do the same thing. So in my calculator, though, I would type in 256 to the 3 divided by 4 power. And you end up getting, did you try it? I hope you're trying some of these. Otherwise, the calculator portion is not going to make sense, and you're actually allowed to use your calculator on these. So if you haven't tried it, after you're done with the notes, go back and try to enter some of these things in. All right, story time. The radius r of a sphere is given by this equation, where v is the volume of the sphere. Find the radius to the nearest foot of a beach ball with a volume of 113 cubic feet. Use 3.14 for pi. So I know in the past I let you leave pi is pi, and we didn't write any decimals. You're allowed to this time. The directions are calling for that. I want to find the radius. So here's the formula for the radius. You guessed it, all we're going to do is plug in to this formula. So I'm going to scooch my paper over. Let's zoom out a little bit. Okay, so first off, it says that the volume is 113 cubic feet. So I'm going to replace the volume with 113. You're not given R. So R equals, I'm going to include these parentheses. It's supposed to be 3 times the volume, so I would take 3 times 113. And then I did tell you to use 3.14 for pi, so on the bottom here, I'm going to take 4 times 3.14. And I'm supposed to raise this to the 1/3 power. Now, you could do this all at once in your calculator if you wanted. If you wanted to do this all at once in your calculator, I would just suggest you separate it out though. So, I'm going to solve the numerator. I'm going to take 3 times 113, and that's 339. Then I'm going to take 4 times 3.14, and that's 12.56. I want to raise that to the 1/3 power. So I want to raise this quotient to the 1/3 power. So in your calculator, wrap it up in some parentheses, take 339 divided by 12.6. And it's important that you do include those parentheses so that it's not just taking the 339 to the 1/3 power or the 12.56 to the 1/3 power. I want both to the 1/3 power. So after you have typed that in, that division problem in parentheses, you're going to raise it to the power of 1 divided by 3. When you hit enter, you get this lengthy decimal. And I think did I ask you to round to a certain place? I just asked you to find the radius to the nearest foot. Yeah, so I'm looking for whole number here. So if you have 2.99999, I'm guessing that's closer to 3. So we're going to say the radius is about 3 feet. You are all done. See you soon.